Hey, Kevin and Doreen, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Emma, welcome. Glad you folks could join. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. Just taking care of a couple of other things. We had, I'm not sure how the weather is out in Iowa right now, but we had more snowfall today. So I had shared with Emma just as I was heading out, I had to go out there and do some snow blowing today again. We had about 3 inches or so that fell. So we have 2 boxes left. If you weren't at the unboxing yesterday, and welcome to Jennifer as well. I think I'm seeing Jennifer's name for the first time, but I don't always see all the names that pop up during a live stream because I'm busy doing things. But a special welcome to Jennifer, and I'm guessing one of our moderators, maybe Emma or Sunny or Paula or Bill, will continue to make you feel at home, and also hopefully find out where you're from. We always love to find out where folks are from. So 42 degrees, huh? So you actually had snow melting out by you for Kevin and Doreen out in Iowa. So I was starting to say we have 2 boxes left that we're going to be unboxing. One of them tonight, and the other one tomorrow night. We did the one from Hamburg, Germany last night, and had a chance to reveal a really cool Singer 222K from 1953. 53 is the first year that they made the 222K, which was made exclusively in Kilbowie, Scotland. So the machine that I ended up purchasing, originally the machine that we unboxed last night was going to be coming to the workshop for repair and restoration. Robert was sending it from Hamburg, Germany. And as he and I were doing all the numbers and doing the calculations on what kind of return on investment he would get, because he ultimately wanted to sell this 222K anyway, it ended up proving to be a lot more productive for him to just sell me the machine directly and then ship it here so I can do the restorative work on it here at the workshop, and then I can turn around and sell the machine. What a neat thing to unveil a first edition 222K from a production group size of only 400 machines. Only 400 machines from that production group for that first edition. So that's a very, very rare thing to be able to do. I can't ever think when I've had a chance to unveil a machine that is that exclusive. That exclusive, just amazing. Welcome, Michelle, as well. And looks like Jennifer is from the great state of Texas. I love my Texas people. We've got a number of friends that visit regularly at premieres and live streams from Texas. So that's really cool. Very, very cool. Well, whenever you folks are ready, I would love for you to start chiming in on which of these two boxes we're going to be unboxing tonight. The one on the left is another machine that I purchased. It's a Centennial Featherweight 221. And the one on the right is a machine that has come all the way from London, England. And I'm going to be doing repairs and restoration on it for my friend Adam. So tonight, it's either London, England, and a mystery machine that has come all the way from the UK for repair and restoration. We'll call this machine number 2, or machine number 1 that I purchased. And I'll tell you right up front, it's a Centennial Featherweight 221. So I'll let the moderators look at what's being typed into the chat. So if you're sitting in the shadows right now and you want to have a voice on which unboxing we do tonight, then you'll want to jump from the shadows into the light and join the live chat and either type box number 1, which will be a Centennial Featherweight 221, or a mystery machine from London, England, all the way from London, England. And again, it's coming from Adam, and I'll be doing repairs, restoration to get this machine back to a top-notch state. And if you're curious, I picked violin music tonight. So most of the songs you'll hear a violin in the background. I have no idea why I picked it. I just did. So welcome to Aaron as well. Good to see Aaron pop up. And also Kristen's Mixed Media. Kristen's Mixed Media. I think Kristen joined us for the first time last night when we did the unboxing of the machine from Hamburg, Germany. So it's great to see Kristen again as well. I'm taking advantage of being able to greet everybody right now, because once I start doing the unboxing of either machine number 1 or machine number 2 from London, England, I'm going to be so busy, it'll be up to the moderators then to kind of interact with you, make you feel welcome, and make you feel like we're glad that you're here, which we certainly are. Well, I'm going to ask that the moderating team, and I think I've only seen Emma so far. I haven't seen Sunny or Paula, and I haven't seen Bill. So I'm going to ask Emma if she would go ahead and tabulate what the vote is as to whether or not we're going to be opening this box number 1 or the box number 2 that came all the way from London, England. Well, from what Emma is saying, it sounds like for tonight, we're going to be opening up Adam's machine that came all the way from London, England. And it's here for repairs and restoration. And I'm not telling you what it is yet. But I'll give you a huge hint. I'll give you a huge hint. And it is that the company that made Adam's machine, many argue that it is the oldest sewing machine company in the world, even rivaling the Singer Sewing Machine Company that oftentimes will try to tout the fact that it is the oldest, coming out in 1851. So if that gives you a good clue, then you might be able to nail it, at least as far as the maker of this machine. All right, so let me get number one out of the way. This one will be unboxed tomorrow night at the same time, 6 o'clock Central. So depending on where you are in the U.S., just adjust for that. We'll be doing this one tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Well, you can see that this plastic stretch wrap around Adam's box didn't survive the journey so well. Would somebody be willing to Google what is the distance? We did this last night for the box that we did for Hamburg, Germany. How far is it from London, England to Oconto, Wisconsin, the workshop? How far from London, England to Oconto, Wisconsin? I'd be curious to know. Can only imagine how many sewing machine repair and restoration shops there are between London, England and Oconto, Wisconsin. It's crazy, isn't it? But I'm so honored that Adam did his homework and his due diligence, and out of any restore or repair in the world, made the investment to send this machine from London, England, all the way to Oconto, Wisconsin. Amazing, amazing. I love it. Well, Emma called it right. It is a classroom, so class is in session. Well, Emma typed that it's about 3,800 miles. So the machine we opened last night traveled even just a little bit further than this one. But almost 4,000 miles, almost 4,000 miles. And the same carrier, I'm going to kind of bring the camera over this way. The same carrier that brought the one from Hamburg, Germany, also brought this one. I've got to change my screens real quick. Hold on a second. So to protect Adam, I covered up his actual address, but you can see it came out of the United Kingdom, Great Britain. I think that's also Adam's address. I got to kind of cover that up as well. They put his address all over the place. Jiminy Crickets. And interestingly, there's no customs form on this one that came out of the UK, but there was one for the machine that we opened last night that came out of Hamburg, Germany. So maybe the UK doesn't require it, but Germany does. So, all right, well, let me set this down. And we're going to start tearing into this box so we can find out what is this mystery machine that Adam sent almost 4,000 miles to the workshop so I could make it tip top. I'm gonna pull my sleeves up so I'm ready to go to work here. Well, interestingly, I hadn't really paid attention, but the label on top had gone through such a rigorous journey that it was actually separated from the rest of the container. I don't know if the DHL guy held it with his hand or what he did, but I didn't even have to tear it off. Crazy, huh? I agree, Michelle. It really is an honor. I'm really humbled by it. I think I do a great job with VSM machines, and I get that feedback regularly. But when I take into account that there are other very talented VSM restorers that are within that path between London, England, and Oconto, Wisconsin, it wow, really cool. So again, if you're going to use stretch wrap, kind of like Adam did, he did a brilliant job from what I can see so far. But just make sure you go over the stretch wrap with a couple layers of packing tape to really solidify that surface. That way, your label part won't come off like Adam's did. It'll stay on there for the entire journey. So. But this is a great idea if you're going to be shipping in cardboard to have this barrier on it, especially in the wintertime. All over the world, people are experiencing winter right now. For some, it's snow. For some, it's rain. For some, it's something in between. Even Florida today, a couple of my friends in Florida, including Emma and Maddie, told me that it was downright chilly down in Florida today. So you got to be ready. I always say, hope for the best, but plan for the worst when you're packing. And if you've never watched one of my packing videos before on the channel, you got to check it out. But go to the bathroom first and get something to drink, maybe something to snack on, because they run a good amount of time. Because I show you step by step how to protect the machine. No matter where you're shipping it in the world, it's going to arrive safe. Well, I didn't look at the check real close. Were there any guesses? I only gave a single clue, I understand. Only gave a single clue. But the clue again was arguably the origin of this machine goes to a company that many claim is much, much, much older than Singer, that always boasts about being the first on the scene with a functional sewing machine around 1851. So, and there's a little bit of a tricky twist to why people make the claim about this particular company being older than Singer, Wheeler and Wilson, or any of the other oldies, Davis, older than any of those companies that I just named. Well, based on what I'm seeing here, Adam sent me a retro microwave. Let me show you what I mean. And I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing my screen, but right here you can see retro microwave. And Adam wrote on here the top. So Based on how he wrote it, I'm wondering if I need to spin this around maybe, huh? Well, you know what? You never can have enough microwaves, right? You never can have enough microwaves. Oh, hi, Susie. Welcome. Okay, let's keep on plugging on this. I should probably get a bigger pair of scissors. I just have a little puny pair right now. A microwave box is not a bad choice. They generally use a real high quality grade of corrugated cardboard. So it should be a very sturdy box to do this. So at this point, I'm going to focus on the unboxing. I'm not looking at the chat. So if you type any questions, I'll leave it in the hands of the moderating team to try to answer the question for you. Otherwise, you can always reach out after this live stream if you weren't able to get the answer you were looking for, and I'll be glad to try to get you that answer. So Adam is giving me some real good clues here. I've got arrows up here. I've got top. So we're going to try to open it like this and see what we find. Welcome to Thalia as well. So if you get a box like this, what I try to do is I try to press in on it a little bit so I can determine how much clearance I have so I can set the length of the blade. You don't want to cut too deep because you might damage something that you can't see underneath the surface. So it feels like I've got about a good couple of inches. So we're going to start to try to open it this way. I'm not seeing, I guess we could. This is a tough one because we've got a clear opening right here too. I'm going to try to open the top first, and then if it looks like we can go through here, we'll go ahead and do that. Oh, it's just so tempting. So tempting! Okay, I'm just going to keep plugging this way. It's probably going to be a more direct route. I think I'm going to keep it like this. I'm going to keep it positioned like that. Welcome, David. I just wanted to take a quick peek at the chat. And again, welcome to Thalia. I think I've been able to greet everybody. How cool is that? Very cool. Well, I think I saw that Thalia was just asking what box we're opening. So y'all can let her know that. But I know that her keen interest is in the final box that we're going to be opening tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central Time, because behind the scenes, Thalia and I have been in conversations, and she has made a decision to buy a Centennial Featherweight 221 for me. So she knows I've already shown her one of them, which is gorgeous, that I have in my collection. But we're going to be unboxing the other one tomorrow night. So I'm guessing she'll be front row at that premiere live stream tomorrow night. See, again, styrofoam is a great protector, but see what happens to it? It just gets all brittle. It's all brittle. What kind of bag did Adam send me? Oh, it's not even a bag. It's just like some plastic. Okay, that's cool. So Adam has the right approach here. He's trying to fill all the space in here so the machine has no space to bounce around inside of this box. Ooh, I even got a little envelope. Cool. If you join the live stream late, I said that I ended up picking the theme of music by the keyword violin. So anything you hear is going to have violins in it, but it might be anything from Spanish music like this to a German polka. So we got our bases covered, that's for sure. Ooh, that's a pretty case. Now I'm a little bit confused. That almost looks like it's... Oh, I see. Okay. So I had shown you before that Adam had top written here where it says retro microwave and then arrows pointing up. So so I'm going to slide it out, and then the handle, based on what Adam had, you can see what I'm looking at here, based on what Adam wrote, and I can't see the screen right now, so I hope you can see. He wrote top, which would suggest that the handle should be up here, right? As we're looking at the box, arrow up, arrow up. Let me change screens, hold on. So arrow up, top. The handle should be up here, but I can feel when I go into the box, I can feel that the handle, it feels like the handle is down over here. So instead of the handle being pointing up that way like the arrows indicate, the handle's actually over here. So I hope the handle didn't get damaged in the process. There you can see it right there. I think that's the handle. Kind of feels like the handle. Maybe it's not. See, that's the only thing when you're packing, it gets to be a little bit tricky. It gets to be a little bit tricky because as you're going and you're building those layers, it's easy to lose your bearing as to which way's up for the machine in the case. And that might have happened for Adam. Yeah, the handle should be over there near the top, and it's not. So, all right, let's keep our fingers crossed, huh? Uh-oh. I can see a little bit of damage already. Can you all see that? And it may have been like this. Maybe it was like this when it left London, England, but that split may have occurred in transit. And that's why you'll see me whenever I'm doing one of these soft-sided carrying cases, I always anchor it all down with stretch wrap and then packing tape so that it really pushes that in and holds it real snug. When it's not like that, this is a soft-sided, almost like a luggage piece, and it can split like this when it's getting bounced around over those 4,000 miles coming from London, England, all the way to Wisconsin. So I'm going to kind of lean it this way. I'm going to grab that handle that it was resting on. Here we've got another. See this? It's stitched together, but because there was nothing to stabilize it, kind of press it in, all of the stitching came out along here as well. And again, Adam might tell me that it was like this, but I've seen this happen when it's not packed as well as it could be. Here we've actually got a split all the way down the side. I think you can see that. See, here's our stitch line right here. Our stitch line goes right along here. And this, you can see where the stitch is actually pulled out. Hopefully you can see that. I don't have the best perspective of the camera. Yeah, you can sort of see that. Yeah. Yep, it actually ripped the stitches right out. So I always say hope for the best, but plan for the worst, right? Plan for the worst. A lot of bad things can happen in 4,000 miles. This is a very cool carrying case. I can honestly say in all the cases that I've had come into the workshop, I've never seen one in this shade of, what would you call this shade? Is it red? Kind of a reddish color, isn't it? Almost a burnt, kind of a burnt red or something. Very, very pretty. So Adam had more packing and padding down here, along with a base of styrofoam. And I'm not anti-styrofoam. Sometimes it probably sounds like I am, but like I always say, the only thing I would encourage you to do with styrofoam, if you're going to use it, especially as a base support, is that you take a little bit of extra time and go around it with stretch wrap and some tape as well, so that it'll make it a lot more sturdy, a lot stronger. You can see here, I'll kind of break a piece off. You can see how thin this stuff is. And when you're talking about almost 4,000 miles, of it getting banged against cement floors, against the beds of airplanes, and or against the beds of trucks, this barrier of about an inch really, it isn't significant anymore. And when it doesn't have that extra support of the strapping tape and the stretch wrap to kind of hold it all together, boy, this stuff can give way really, really quick. You know, it's not sturdy enough. So if you're determined to use styrofoam, just go over it with stretch wrap first if possible, or at least packing tape, okay? It'll make a big difference. It really will. All right, let's get this out of the way. That looks like it's all empty now. If that did happen in transit, what a shame. What a doggone shame, huh? Same thing on this side. That's upholstery grade thread that they use to put these cases together. It's not a lightweight thread at all. But when you're talking about the kinetics and the motion of that case being bounced around inside of the box, and the weight of that machine pressing against the edges again and again and again as it's jostled around, it's so easy for that machine to win the battle against stitching like this, particularly because as the stitching or the thread ages, it becomes more fragile, doesn't it? That's why I always say on thread, there's an expiration date. Don't set up your machine with really old thread thinking, oh, it's cool, I can use vintage thread, because it'll create issues for you. It really will. So I'll do my best to repair this case because it's a lovely case, but it was preventable, wasn't it? It really was. Well, if I didn't look at the chat really, really close, but if someone threw out a guess that many will argue that the oldest sewing machine company in the world, as far as the origin of a company, not necessarily that they were actively making sewing machines at the time, but the Husqvarna company out of Sweden goes all the way to the 1600s. And so this machine, I can tell you, based on the case, was born in Sweden. Yeah, kind of fun to say Sweden, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Now this plate that I'm holding right here actually should be in the bottom of the case, assuming that this machine is placed in the case properly. The base is down here, and this should be under the base. So I don't think this would have worked its way underneath the weight of the machine all the way to here, but I guess it's possible, isn't it? Well, I'll set this to the side for right now. And I'm delighted to see that Adam created some sort of a barrier on the inside for the machine. The only advice, though, oh, this has actually come loose completely, hasn't it? This is actually separated from the case, is what we're seeing right here. This is the glue back that should be attached to the front. This is actually the front of the case, and it's completely come loose. And again, I don't know if this happened as a result of insufficient packing or whether it happened before that, before it was shipped. But this all has to be cleaned up and then glued back down again so that it's anchored properly. Because this little cubby right here is designed to protect this extension bed. And as soon as you see this extension bed, you know straight away that it's a Swedish Beauty, don't you? There's no mistaking. There's no mistaking that. Now, another sad discovery. You guys remember that one time? Those of you that have followed me faithfully remember when I raced to Minnesota to save a Swedish Beauty that had been driven over by a car. And one of the things I discovered when I got to Minnesota after racing from Wisconsin all the way to that other state is that when that car ran over the case of that Swedish Beauty, it snapped this bed all the way in half. So I could literally, do you remember that? I was able to hold the two halves together. This one has a crack that's beginning in it right here. I'm going to try to come really close with the camera to show that to you. There's the crack right there. So I don't know if this was pre-existing, and Adam did not mention it to me. It may have slipped his mind, but it's cracked. It's cracked all the way through. And you can see the crack on the other side continuing as well. It's incredibly tricky to try to mend an aluminum type cast material like this. Very, very tricky. So I always say, I say it all the time, and I'm sure some of you tire of hearing it, but when you see things like this, assuming that, you know, Adam is a really smart guy, and he would have mentioned, hey, Scott, by the way, the bed is cracked. He never did. So I'm guessing that it happened in transit. And again, something that sadly is preventable, isn't it? It's sadly, when you see me pack a bed like this going into a Swedish Beauty case, I go around it with stretch wrap. I go around it with bubble wrap. I anchor it down with stretch wrap again. Then I go over it with packing tape to really solidify and immobilize that extension bed, because it's only a thin cast aluminum, right? And it's vulnerable. It's very, very vulnerable. That bums me out. It really does. So I'll do my best to stabilize it, but if you ever Google how do I weld aluminum, it takes special equipment, and it's a very specialized repair. So I'll talk with Adam and see what he wants to do. But just the slightest amount of pressure when this is mounted on the machine, it would be mounted like this. Let me set this down for a sec. It would be mounted like this with this extension leg down. And as you're sewing, this is going to be right in proximity to the needle, isn't it? It's going to slide in against that extension bed. And inevitably, when you're sewing, you get a little bit tired or whatever it is. You're going to be putting pressure on this bed, aren't you? And it could cause almost like the spider effect you see on a windshield. It could cause that crack in this aluminum to go further and further and further across, and then eventually snap. It's done. So, oh, I'm bummed out. I'm bummed out a little bit. Yeah, I am. So, all right, I won't dwell on this anymore. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. I'm just going to set that off to the side with the bottom of this case. And again, this will require repair as well. You can see the remnants of the old glue on there as well, where this is just it's just torn out of place, hasn't it? And this has to be anchored properly. Otherwise, that case is absolutely vulnerable, isn't it? Not to mention the extension bed, because this is the little cubby right here for the extension bed, isn't it? Yeah. There's not much in the way at all of holding that in place, is there? It's kind of worked loose, even with my gentle handling of it. Even with my gentle handling of it. There we go. I'm going to put some more music on to soothe my soul here. Oh, gumdrops. Oh, well. It is what it is, as a friend of mine used to say in healthcare. All right, let's continue. All right. Well, from some of the materials that were kind of floating around in the case, you can see that this is a very early version. You can nearly see that this is a very early version of one of the Swedish beauties, as I affectionately call them. It's going to be not a Class 21 that we see quite often, but it's an earlier edition of the zigzag machine that came out of Husqvarna. It's a Class 20. And the Class 20s reach back all the way into the 1940s. So it'll be interesting to see if I can date this machine once we get it pulled out. And another really fun, I love providential documents, don't you? Here's another, it looks like an original brochure that would have come with this machine, highlighting the fact, the glory of this portable sewing machine, this zigzag machine, and all of the features and the functions of the machine as well. And this would have been out probably at a Husqvarna dealership. They would have had it on the counter or some other prominent location, so that as customers came in to consider their options, they were aware that this machine was available and for sale. So really cool. I love it when there's documents like this to solidify the identity and the origin of the machine. All right, I'm going to take this panel out since it's completely separated now. And we'll slowly try to work this machine out of its storage space here in the case. So again, using bubble wrap as a filler is fine, but it's not going to afford the level of protection that the machine deserves. And I can see straight away, oh boy. Okay, let's take this in small steps so that we can find out what's going on here. Now, unless I'm really, really confused, this is the top of the machine, this is the bottom of the machine, but it looks like it was put into the case, although this is a very different case. Well, normally this would have been put in the case upside down, but it's not. With this Class 20 original case, they've got these storage compartments for the foot controller and the accessory box at the top instead of suspended down below where you would slide the free arm base underneath there. This is very unusual setup. All right. So again, foot controllers are fragile. So whenever you ship a foot controller, take the extra amount of time to go over it with stretch wrap and then bubble wrap it, and just don't make it so big that it won't fit into that cubby if you have a case similar to Adam's. But you do need to protect a foot controller. They are fragile. And so recommendation is, instead of it just kind of being slid into the case, do what I just said if you're going to be shipping something to the workshop so you can protect this. Because inside of here is a ceramic center. And when you immobilize it and pad it, it's going to be less likely to crack that. Remember how I discovered on that recent Japanese machine where it was cracked all the way across and I had to remove all of the electrical wires on the foot controller? Hopefully you saw that. I posted it on Facebook. So they are fragile. You gotta protect them just like the rest of the machine. Same thing with accessory boxes like this right here. This is plastic, so you've got to ensure that you take the extra steps to anchor it down with stretch wrap so it doesn't pop open like this, and then also put bubble wrap around it as well. And there's a little piece of this missing, and I think I'm finding remnants of it in the case. So it's possible when Adam sent this, that this plastic accessory box, which also has the royal crest on it, because the company was founded by a king's decree, and that's why they always use the royal crest on the machine and all the other doodads for it. So part of that case appears to be right here in my hand. So the damage in all likelihood occurred during those 4,000 miles approximately coming from London, England to Oconto, Wisconsin. So again, something that, just being absolutely honest and candid, it's preventable, isn't it? So I'll set that to the back and I'll see if I can find all the pieces and see if we can, find all the pieces, see if I can glue that back together again. So we're finding damage, aren't we? We're finding damage. Susie is giving feedback here. I'm looking at the chat really quick. Camera angle does not capture the top very well. And I'm not sure if Susie's talking about the top of here. But this would be the top of the machine as we're looking at it right here. I think that's going to be the faceplate from what I can feel. And it feels like the faceplate may have come open because it wasn't anchored down properly. See if I can carefully adjust this table that I have the camera on. Move it over just a wee bit. That's about as good as I can do on angle, Susie. And eventually I'm going to be taking this out of the case fully and moving the case anyway, because I know the case is going to need some repairs also. So let's continue the process and see what we find, huh? So Adam has made an attempt here to kind of model his packing after mine, but it's real spongy in here. So I'm concerned that the machine may have additional damage to it. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? I'll look for those other parts. No, let me check the camera angle again. Okay, that's about as straight on as I can get it. Welcome, welcome LJ Featherweights. Isn't that a fun name? If I'm seeing the screen correctly. LJ Featherweights. Very cool. Yeah, Susie is from Minnesota as well, isn't she? How fun is that? All right, let's see what we have going on here. And at this stage, because I can see there's not a lot of padding, I'm going to be moving away from the cutter and moving to scissors. So let me grab a different pair of scissors so I can begin to take off these layers carefully. So again, this machine had quite a journey, didn't it? Can you imagine how many hands touched this machine over those almost 4,000 miles from London, England, all the way to Oconto, Wisconsin? About the same distance if it had traveled, if my workshop were in Minnesota. It would be a little bit further maybe in Minnesota, but 4,000 miles, there's a lot of hands touching this, isn't there? And a lot of transitions for the machine as well. Going into warehouses, being transported into trucks or other types of transportation by ground and by air. So much happening with it. And everybody, whenever they're transporting something like this, they're always in a rush, aren't they? They're always in a rush. We can put our fragile stickers on those cases all day long, but someone's going to be shuffling that machine quickly because they're handling thousands of them a day, without a doubt. So as you're removing something like this, if it's packed similar to this, pull it away from the machine a little bit, kind of get your finger or your thumb in there as a buffer, and then just carefully, almost like you're giving it a haircut, remove those layers, layer by layer. Because the last thing I want to do is cause damage to the machine if it's already suffered damage, like the case. And if you're used to seeing Swedish beauties and you're used to that more minty color, this is going to be darker. It's almost going to be olive drab, like you saw the extension bed that had been damaged. That kind of that color scheme is where Husqvarna was when they first started launching with the Class 20 type machines. They were much darker than they eventually landed on the Class 21 machines. And what I'm holding onto right now is the balance wheel, which is a real solid thing to grip, and it won't hurt the machine in any way. Just curious to ask, in my travels, when I was living in Europe for 3 years, I lived in Hanau, Germany. Most of you know that. I lived in Hanau, Germany, and when I did that giveaway of those little miniature machines during our recent fundraiser, where we raised about $6,400 for the local Humane Society here in Oconto, one of the little machines that I gave away had roots going back to the Grimm brothers. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Grimm brothers, Hanau, Germany. You'll see that they were incredible authors of children's storybooks. And so when I was in Europe, I made it a point to take a trip over to England, and I ended up taking a really interesting path. Hopefully I'm not boring you with this, but I took a very interesting journey path. I flew out of Ramstein Air Base, which is in Germany, and I landed in Mildenhall, England. And then I took another means of transportation from Mildenhall, England, over to Dover. And then I eventually got into London and all the other parts. Another time, I took a very different path. I took my car, which was a Saturn. Remember those Saturns that were so popular back in the day? I took my Saturn up to Calais, France, and then I took a ferry across to the cliffs. What would they call them? The White Cliffs, or whatever they call them. They were shown in the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And then I ended up driving my car then into England from there. Really an interesting experience to drive over in England. You got to really flip your thinking upside down because you're driving on the opposite side of the road, etc. But yeah, has anyone else been to England? Has anyone else been to London? Has anyone else made that journey? Just curious. If you did, share it in the chat so that everybody knows about it. It's kind of cool. It's a cool experience to share. So would you like a little bit off the top? I won't cut it too short because you don't want to make it look like a haircut, right? Yeah. Okay, let's continue this. I'm hoping that moving the table a little bit, I made that angle better for Susie from Minnesota. All right, let's give this a go. Let's keep our fingers and toes crossed that the vintage sewing machine fairies were on duty and kept Adam's class 20 safe. Let's hope, let's hope. There you can see the pretty patina of this class 20 Swedish Beauty. It's not the minty color, but it's lovely, isn't it? Isn't that a lovely color? And there's the very proud badge mark of Viking. I just walked over and got another extension bed of the later version of the Swedish Beauty, the Class 21, just so you can see the contrast of color. So they went from this to more of this, and this is obviously dirty right now. I've not cleaned this to go with any machine, but you can see the color contrast between the two. They started here, and they ended up migrating to here. Some of you might say that was the wrong move. I think that's lovely, isn't it? And I don't know, those of you that are really smart about colors, you can look at these two colors and probably type in the chat what type of green this is. You know, is this one here versus that? Yeah. But interesting pilgrimage, isn't it? As manufacturers try different things. I'm hoping that that's just dirt that broke free. I'm seeing little things kind of intermingled in the bubble wrap. It's probably just dirt. Let's just hope it's dirt. And I I am not set up at the workbench right now for 230 voltage, but I'm going to be looking at resources as far as inverters or converters so that I'll be able to properly power Adam's machine, because this is set up for England and they run, I believe, on 230. So that'll require a little bit of extra effort on my part, which I'm happy to do for any customer that is willing to go through the effort of packing a machine and sending it 4,000 miles practically all the way to the little workshop here in Oconto, Wisconsin. So if any of you are already in the space of having bought a converter that takes a machine from 220 or gives 220 voltage to power a machine like this, reach out to me or share that information with one of the moderators and they can let me know. It'll save me a little bit more time in researching the best solution to power up Adam's machine. Uh-oh, that was a bad sound. All right, I got to slow down a little bit and be very careful here. This is a, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, that's a piece of metal that was snapped off. Now I need to figure out where it came from. In the meantime, I'm just going to preserve it. Hopefully you can see that. I got to change the shot again. I'm going to try to look at the camera here. You set it there. And it looks like it's probably off of an edge. See how it's pointed? So I'll hang on to this so I can try to, as we unpack it further, figure out what this was broken off of. See, the problem when you're dealing with aluminum is it'll set in my little tray, but it's not really magnetized. So I've got to be careful I don't lose it. And I'll probably, well, I shouldn't say probably, I might find other pieces. It'd be so easy if it were metal, then I could just run a magnet over it, but that won't work in this case because it's an aluminum composition. All right, I'm not seeing any other fragments right now, but I'll have to be real careful. I'll check this area after the live stream and just make sure I haven't dropped anything on the floor. All right. Oh, this got bent too. I talked about this in another premiere where someone had shipped a machine to me that I purchased, and they shipped the machine upside down, and that one had a solid thread guide across the top. This on the Class 20s, they did a split thread guide, one thread guide in the front, a gap, and then a thread guide in the rear as well. And this one has been bent over because it didn't have adequate padding and protection. You can kind of see that straight away right there where it's bent over. And the problem with that is when you try to bend a thin gauge metal like this back, even if you superheat it with a torch, it's very likely to snap off. Very likely to snap off. So we might be having to track down a parts replacement for this. All right, let's continue. Kind of checking this out here. Talk about a meaty plug, huh? Isn't that a hoot? I remember using these when I was in the European marketplace. You just look at the thickness of that polarized plug-in. It's just crazy. You could literally carry this in your car and use it as a self-defense weapon. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh. This brings back memories. This brings back memories. Oh, and it looks like this is also a fuse contact, so it's going to have fuses in there as well as an extra safeguard for the machine. Very cool. All right, let's rotate my computer. See if we can get a closer look at this Swedish Beauty now. Yes, it's actually me. See? So we've got some damage on the front of here, and this may have been pre-existing. Also, if anyone gets really bored, if anyone gets super really bored, and you want to call this international number in Glenfield sewing and knitting machines, when's the last time you saw a sticker that said knitting machines? Go ahead and give that a call. And if you record the call, I'll post it on this YouTube channel. That would be a hoot, wouldn't it? And then we've got a really nice plate down here that highlights. It's kind of hard to see because it's kind of dirty right now. But Husqvarna, normally you'll see this nomenclature plate on the rear of the machine. On the Class 20s, they attached it to the front in some instances. So I'm really pleased that none of these plastic knobs on the front were damaged, as far as I can see at least. I'm not seeing any cracking. And these are incredibly vulnerable. And if you're not familiar with these machines, what I'm messing around with right here is the stitch width, which is surprisingly free moving right now. Adam must have lubed it up pretty well. This is going to be your feed dog drop, which on the later models was moved down to right about here on the pillar. And then you've got the stitch length. And also, as part of the stitch length, if you move this to the highest position, still loosening it so I can move it all the way down. So right now we're at the longest stitch length on 4. And then as you move it up, it gradually gets shorter and shorter, as you would suspect. And the range on these earliest Swedish Beauties is going to be right around 5 stitches to 30 stitches per inch. So when we have it down on the 4, we're going to be really close to that, right around 5 stitches per inch. As we move it up, close to that 0, we're going to be getting down into the satin range, doing about 30 stitches per inch. And then as we move it all the way up, we're sewing in reverse. So it does have a back tacking or reverse capacity, even on this earlier Swedish Beauty model. Obviously, our upper tension unit, and this is going to be one of those upper tension units that, and this appears to have been kind of crushed in a little bit because our take-up spring won't move at all. So it's been pushed into the housing while it was being jostled in its transport, unless it was already damaged like this. So that'll require some attention to get that take-up spring to be moving freely. And the function again of the take-up spring is it does two essential things. Number one, it's going to temporarily release the tension to allow that thread to advance for the sewing process. The other thing is it swings down and comes back up. It's going to be pulling that thread up to define that lock stitch. If this is not functioning correctly like it is right now, even if we were to tighten this all the way down, clockwise, it's really quite stiff right now. I'm not going to force it. But even if we were to tighten this all the way down, because again, your upper tension unit is going to define your lock stitch. It's going to be pulling up on that thread to define the lock stitch in the sewing process. But if this take-up spring isn't also working in conjunction with it, you're still going to have very undefined lock stitches in spite of tightening this all the way down. So yeah, this should freely move. You've seen me do that before. And right now I'm pushing from the side and it's been jammed into the case too tightly, which isn't good, obviously. This is going to be our needle position. And needle position, let me put a little bit more music on for us. So this serves as needle position, but it's generally only going to respond affirmatively when you have your stitch width on 0. You can see right now I have the stitch width on 4, and when I turn this, you'll see a little bit of movement from the needle, but it's not going to be dramatic. It's going to be almost non-existent. Kind of see me turning it here. You look at that needle. As opposed to when I move it to the 0 position, and then all of a sudden we get a very affirmative response. And that really is the simple mechanics of the machine. The simple mechanics of the machine is that as soon as you move this stitch width from 0 to anywhere between 1 and 4, the machine now, as far as the engineering of it, is going to override anything you tell it as far as that needle position, because that needle is going to be moving. Well, the balance wheel is also jammed. I'm trying to turn the balance wheel right now to demonstrate that, and it's not going. So that's gonna require some work over in this region as well, isn't it? But my point is, as soon as you move it above 0, your needle position adjuster is going to be ignored for the most part by the machine. So over on this side of the machine, we've got our bobbin winding assembly. And what this little piece does right here is when you're sewing in normal mode, you're going to slide this into position, press it in, and then turn it clockwise so that that wheel will move generally much more freely than it is right now. And I'm getting a little bit better movement on it, but still not much. And then when you want to sew in the slow mode, you're going to take this out. And that's kind of stuck as well, isn't it? There we go. And then this should be coming out further than it is to allow you to activate that gear reduction. But right now it's not working well. So a lot of deferred maintenance. You can kind of look in the vents on here where it goes into the motor, and it's filthy, isn't it? It's quite filthy. Here we've got a maintenance access panel, and then an additional nomenclature plate right here that's showing us that this machine will operate within a range of 230 to 250 volts. And it gives also the output for the motor, which is 80 watts and 25 watts as far as the lamp, the lighting system. Plug in for the foot controller, control to turn the light on and off on the back of the machine as well. Additional venting for the motor. Now, any of you that have followed me for a long time, I oftentimes will describe the motor as another type of appliance. What does it act like within the machine environment? The motor, what does it act like? Another type of appliance. Type that into the chat if you wouldn't mind. Now, a lot of the later class 21s, this motor cover and also the bobbin winding cover over here are going to be made out of plastic. This is all going to be cast aluminum. So it generally is a lot more sturdy than the later models in its design. You'll see also that we don't have a specific panel for inserting any cams. The cam function of this is going to be engineered all the way already into the machine. You can see here's one of our cleated belts that's going to help manage timing on the machine. And while it looks pretty rough, doesn't it? It still is going to do its job. It needs some maintenance. It needs some cleanup. It also needs, because this is a cloth nylon material in between the cleats, it also needs maintenance to keep that supple. If you don't keep this material supple in between the cleats, it's going to start to deteriorate and tear and then eventually break. And these are available aftermarket, but they're not nearly as good as the originals. And they're really a booger to try to install them. There's a lot that has to be taken off to install a timing cleated belt like this. So I'm going to do a lot of maintenance on this to preserve it for Adam so that he doesn't have to face a very costly repair down the road. Anyone that knows a fair amount about Swedish Beauties, tell me another Swedish Beauty design that was much later, where on the back of the machine, you don't have to put in cams, but it has a cam adjuster on the back of it. You guys remember what model that is? So it's not going to look exactly like this, but you won't have to put any cams in it. It's going to have a little plastic cam adjuster on the rear of it. And again, much later than this model, much later. Much later than this model. And I'm still kind of looking for that piece of metal that was snapped off. It's very possible that it was snapped off on the bottom somewhere, because in relation to how Adam had the box arrows and marking at top, the machine was not orientated properly in the box. So it's possible, again, with all of this machine being cast metal and many parts of it being cast aluminum, it's possible it was broken off the bottom of the machine as well. So here you're seeing a lot of varnish build up on the presser foot bar. If I could rotate the balance wheel, which I can't right now, we would probably see additional varnishing and crud buildup on there as well. So it needs a lot of deep cleaning, doesn't it? Needs quite a bit of deep cleaning. And you'll see on these earlier models of the Swedish Beauty that unlike some of the later ones, the inside of the faceplate is not stamped with the royal crest. You can kind of see what I'm saying here. When I go with my magnet, this is all cast aluminum right here. We get over this range, we hit more of the metal, don't we? As we would suspect. Also, the casing along here is going to have much heavier metal built into it. It's a combination of metal and also aluminum casting as well. So here, the top of the free arm is going to be aluminum also. But our throat plate cover is going to be metal. And that's typically what manufacturers would do, is they would kind of mix it up between the metal and the aluminum, because it would save them weight on the machine. It would also save cost as well. And you can see, even going back to the Class 20s, which again started in the 40s, we've got the jam-free raceway design. By design, that's designed to move. See how it's moving around? And that was a Swedish engineering achievement in allowing you to run heavier thread through the raceway without it jamming up. Because that hook system isn't in a fixed position, it moves up and down and right and left as well. So well, this is going to be quite a project, isn't it? What an interesting bulb in the European marketplace. See that? That is a meaty bulb. Oh my goodness gravy. That's quite a meaty bulb, isn't it? It looks like you could use it on a lighthouse tower almost, doesn't it? You're not going to be able to go to Home Depot in the United States and find one just like this. Good luck. Oh, that's fun. Especially having just visited that lighthouse. And Maddie had an opportunity to travel up from Naples, Florida, and visit that lighthouse in my hometown of Racine, Wisconsin, with me. And the lighthouse keeper was showing us some of the original lighting type bulbs that they were using. This kind of reminds me of that a little bit on a smaller scale. What a cool thing, isn't it? Well, thanks for attending the live stream. I know it's gone a little bit long, but when I started finding damage, we had to kind of take it nice and slow. The last thing I want to do is damage the machine. So I see I'm also going to have to replace the pedestal feet on this as well. Kind of see right here where it's worn down to nothing. And I see that quite often on these. And with it worn down as much as it is, if you put this on a surface that doesn't have a little bit of cushion, you're going to get a lot of vibration from this machine. And it's not going to be a pleasant machine to sew with. So I'll have to see if I can replace these like I've done on some of the other Swedish Beauties. And then over here, we've got an access panel for maintenance, along with the 3 bolting system that Husqvarna uses to hold the base on. And based on the condition I'm seeing of this machine needing a lot of attention, I'll probably just take the entire base off. Here we have nothing left. You can see it right down over here. There's nothing left at all as far as any cushion. There's no supporter there. It's sitting basically on this screw. So lot of needs, isn't there? A lot of needs for this machine. And also I've got to come up with a solution as far as converting my voltage here in the workshop up to 2230. So really a pleasure to get machines from all around the world. And this one made quite a journey of almost 4,000 miles. So thanks again for attending the live stream, and join us tomorrow night as we do the final unboxing of box number 1, I think it is, that I know will be a fun one to do with that Centennial Featherweight that we're going to pull out of there. All right, take care, everybody. And if you want to continue the chat after the live stream ends, the chat will stay active, so feel free to do that.